So I don't know if he has just matured this year or if it was the curriculum we picked, but this has been our best homeschool year yet for my third grader. Here's how it went. If you're new here, I'm Rian, a Christ-following wife and a homeschool mom to 3 boys. Here we talk all things homeschool, and we will learn together how to use our roles as wife, mom, teacher, and homemaker in order to glorify God. So if you watched my 5th grade review, then you know that this was a year that we had to kind of streamline things. We had to kind of just revamp what we were doing, and we had to put a lot of the work onto my kids. I was still there and teaching them, but it was a lot more hands-off on my part just because I needed to do that for the sake of everyone involved. And this actually kind of reinvigorated a love for learning for him, taking it into his own hands and not having to just be taught everything. Again, I did teach quite a bit, but compared to what I had taught his 2nd grade year, it was a lot less. And I think just taking the reins over himself, he likes just getting stuff done. When I tell him, sometimes he gives me a little bit of pushback and I'm like, okay, it's time for school. He's like, yeah, I wanted to, whatever he had on his agenda for that day. But he also, when he starts working, he likes to just knock it out. And if it's mostly independent stuff, then that's a lot easier for him to just do. He's not waiting on me to help him. So for math, we are yet again using Saxon 3 this year. And he actually kind of took the reins on that. So typically Saxon it's pretty teacher intensive until 4th grade. But just kind of by default, he started almost teaching himself. So we started flipping it. Instead of teaching him the lesson and then having him do the worksheet, I would just give him the worksheet first, because typically I was doing something else with the baby or the 3-year-old, and he would do the worksheet. And I could see on the new concepts that I was going to teach that day, some days he would just already know it and he would do it on the worksheet. And I'm like, oh, and I would just go over and say, okay, today we were learning about, whatever, fractions or whatever. And I would just be like, okay, so this, and this. And he's like, yep. And I'm like, okay, well, you did it on your worksheets. You've got it. And we would move on. And it was that easy. Sometimes he would leave it blank if he's like, I don't know what that means. But then I could just go through and be like, oh, okay, so I'm going to teach this lesson. And it made math a lot easier for him this year. And math has always been his strong suit. But just taking it into his own hands this year was really helpful. Now for writing and grammar, we went out on a limb this year. I will post the video up above. We did The Good and the Beautiful this year, and this was something I never imagined me trying. But again, it was kind of a survival year for us, and so we gave it a whirl because I heard that it was really simple. I would say I would score it a B. We did not love, I did not love it. It was kind of soft in some areas. It was a little soft on grammar for me. I would have liked the grammar to be a little more present, a little soft on the writing side of things. But that being said, my son loved it, and I do think he learned from it. I have a whole video talking about that, like I said, that I will link down below. But it just wasn't my favorite. I don't know if we'll use it next year. I will let you know in our curriculum pick video, but it was okay. It was okay. Again, for spelling this year, we did spelling workout. I think he's used this since he was in kindergarten or 1st grade. So it's kind of old hat for us. It's very plain Jane, 4 worksheets in a week, going over, practice using these different spelling rules and different spelling words that you're learning, and then a test at the end of the week. And that's all we do. For our history, Bible, and literature, we used Sunlight C this year. And this was a great year for us. This was the 2nd year of world history. So level B went through the first chunk of world history, and then level C wrapped up that world history unit. And he, would easily say this was his favorite subject. So we did some great read alouds. We did some great textbooks with lots of good pictures. And we did a lot of stuff with our maps, and we learned a lot of countries with our geography songs, and we did a lot of Bible memory and just reading the Bible together. And every day, if we didn't do Sunlight first, he was upset. And so I take that as a win. And then for reading, he did the 3rd grade readers from Sunlight. And so I thought a few of these were kind of easy for him, especially in the beginning of the year. But as the year went on, they got a little bit tougher. And he's my guy that he's good at reading. He's not bad at it. It's just he doesn't love to read. He would rather figure and do, math type stuff and puzzles and stuff like that. Whereas my oldest son could read all day long, especially if it was a book that he picked out. He could just sit there and read and read and read. He always drives me nuts because he goes through all the library books in a day. And I'm like, we just got these. And so this guy, my third grader, he enjoys reading, but not to that extent. He would much rather sit and work a puzzle or draw or do something like that. But he loved all of the read alouds. And I liked it because they pulled some read alouds that I wouldn't have typically pulled for him. And so it kind of stretched his comfort zone. But then he found some books that he didn't know that he would like that he actually really enjoyed. As far as handwriting, we also went out on a limb and did The Good and the Beautiful for handwriting this year. And it was sufficient. Nothing remarkable. He did love the part where you had to draw or color something every day. But like the actual copy work and stuff that you did was just kind of mediocre. I mean, there was nothing special about it, but it was inexpensive and it got the job done. For science, I mentioned this with my fifth grader. We did Apology as Land Animals unit, and it was so cool. He really, really liked it. He is an animal guy. He memorizes like weird little facts about things. That's like one of his favorite things. And so learning about animals is always fun for him because he just likes to store away these little facts and he regurgitates them really well. Like I could just be like, oh yeah, remember when we learned about the monkeys? Like, oh yeah, the gibbons, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't even remember what a gibbons is, but he remembered it. And so this year was just an excellent year. There was no major hiccups in any of our curriculum. The Good and the Beautiful, take it or leave it for me. But the rest of it went perfectly. I could not have asked for a better year, especially for a year that was rough in other ways. We had a lot of life happen this year. Some good things, some really hard things, some sad things. And so I feel like streamlining our curriculum was super beneficial because they were still able to grow academically. We didn't have to take everything to a screeching halt every time something happened. But they were allowed to sit back and life school. They were allowed to walk through hard things with me. And I mentioned that in my fifth grade video, if you've already watched that. They were allowed to walk with us through death in the family, through major sickness, through moves, through a baby being born, through these major life changes. They were allowed to just really process those things and, be with us and see how we deal with those things. And those are some lessons that you can't learn anywhere else. So I really learned this year that my third grader is not the same kid as my fifth grader, and that's okay. I am super proud of him and just how he has persevered this year. And so let me know down below, have you used any of these curriculums and how did you like them? And thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.